Good, happy Tuesday morning, January 19, 2021. I'm Riley King, and welcome to this Tuesday morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Let's begin. We have a lot of news to get to this Tuesday morning, so let's get started. First up, we're going to begin with your COVID-19 updates. More than 1,000 new COVID-19 cases announced in New Hampshire. Hospitalizations continue to decline in the state. New Hampshire health officials announced 1,034 new cases of COVID-19 on Monday as hospitalizations continue to decline. And now let's take a look at your COVID-19 in New Hampshire key data, maps, and graphs. Let's take a look at that right now. And here is a look at that information for all of you right now. There are 57,864 number of people in New Hampshire have tested positive for COVID-19. 24,041,339 number of people in the United States have tested positive. 933 number of deaths from COVID-19 in New Hampshire. 2,737 current number of hospitalizations for COVID-19 in New Hampshire, and 398, 484 number of deaths from COVID-19 in the United States. And now let's take a look at this map of New Hampshire where current cases of COVID-19 are. Concord, 240. And let's take a look at this map of New Hampshire where total cases of COVID-19 are. Concord, 2,126. And now let's take a look at these three charts here. Let's start with the first chart here. New cases each day. New Hampshire in the purple. Daily new positive COVID-19 cases. Orange, new hospitalization. And red, deaths. And let's take a look at this chart here. Current cases in the purple. Total current COVID-19 cases. Orange, current hospitalization. Let's take a look at this chart here. Total positive COVID-19 cases in the purple. Orange, total hospitalization. Red, deaths. And blue, recovered. Let's take a look at this chart here. Positive PCR test rate, positive PCR and antigen test rate, and daily PCR test. And let's take a look at this chart here. Age group of cases and female and male of cases. And let's take a look at this chart here. Infections, hospitalizations, and deaths. And let's take a look at this chart here. Deaths, percent of New Hampshire population, race/ethnicity of cases, and hospitalizations. And a reminder, your common symptoms: fever, lack of smell, cough, chills, difficult breathing, nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea. How it spreads, and prevention tips. And be sure to stay with the Riley King Network for the latest of your COVID-19 information. Decline in hospitalizations may mean post-holiday COVID-19 surge ending. Deaths associated with COVID-19 have been high in January. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9.
Why buy a new Ford from Plymouth Ford? Because we stand behind them all with a 20-year, 200,000-mile...
COVID cases through the holidays posed extreme challenges to hospitals like Elliott and Catholic Medical Center. But in the 2 weeks since hitting an all-time high January 2nd, hospitalizations are down 29% in the state. Elliott with half the cases it had a month ago. Numbers across the board are on the move.
At the same time, the number of new cases per day and the positivity rate seems to be trending down. All of this would suggest to me that it looks like the post-holiday surge we had talked about has come, and perhaps we're on the backside of that.
And the hospitalizations come down, it's because that very vulnerable population that is going to get the most sick has gotten sick, come to the hospital, and either gotten better or unfortunately not.
Indeed, the alarming number of deaths this month, nearly 19% of all during the pandemic, a lagging indicator. Experts now trying to determine if it's the last stage of a surge.
And I think we're probably still in the midst of that. All told, we'd love to see this trend continue, things flatten out, and that timeline corresponding to vaccine timeline coming online would really be probably the best of all situations.
While it may be encouraging, they remind us that case numbers are still high and that we need to remain vigilant. We're live in Portsmouth. Jennifer Crompton, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Good information there. Remain vigilant, everyone. Hospital prepare for surge in vaccine demand as state enters the next phase. Granite staters age 65 and older will be eligible for COVID-19 vaccine. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Ray Brewer.
Why buy a new Ford from Plymouth Ford? Because we stand behind them all with a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty. That's a warranty.
Memorial Hospital in North Conway is one of many places in the state preparing for Phase 1B when it comes to vaccinations for COVID. But they anticipate there will be a learning curve.
This is a very fast-moving project. There are a lot of unknowns. There are a lot of questions.
Phase 1B opens up vaccinations to people 65 or older or with 2 comorbidities. People can sign up online or by calling 211. There are concerns, though, that the system may get overloaded. Memorial Hospital is also part of Maine Health. For now, though, the vaccinations will only be open to New Hampshire residents, even though about 18% of the hospital's patients come from Maine.
Our goal is to focus on our community, our greater community of the Mount Washington Valley and Carroll County,
with the hope that eventually they can vaccinate people from Maine. The hospital is also looking up at setting up the vaccination site off campus so as not to disrupt operations.
It's going to tentatively be at the old Mount Washington Observatory building.
The goal? Vaccinating over 200 people a day. But in order to meet that goal, new staff has to be hired.
We are recruiting EMT, advanced EMTs, EMT paramedics, MAs, pharmacists. So we are not just looking at one group.
And the hospital thinks that this represents a turning point.
We know this is the beginning of moving towards resolving this pandemic.
The hospital anticipates there will be a ramping up period, but they expect a week from today their vaccination clinic will be open. Reporting live, Ray Brewer, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Groups work to promote importance of getting vaccinated for COVID-19. Zonta Club of Concord creates pins to encourage vaccination. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Kristen Carosa.
Why buy a new Ford from Plymouth Ford? Because we stand behind them all with a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty.
The Zonta Club of Concord is a group of professional women working to improve their community, and now they're working to educate people about the COVID vaccine.
As many people want to get vaccinated, there are still quite a few who do not.
The group created these pins to help spread awareness,
so that people would start having conversations around the vaccine and how important it is to get access to the vaccine.
Group members are also trying to educate the community about herd immunity.
It's about positive messaging that people don't need to be afraid of this, that everyone who can be vaccinated should be vaccinated.
The United Way in Nashua is also stepping up their outreach efforts about the vaccine, especially to those in their diverse neighborhoods.
We see the probability of getting incorrect messaging is very high, and the skepticism amongst some of these groups is very high as well.
The organization's president says they'll be working with community partners to target these populations.
Our efforts are going to be around connecting with these communities to ensure that there's a level of correct information about who can get vaccinated, when can you get vaccinated, where can you get vaccinated.
Outreach to churches is one of their priorities.
We do find that in particular our Hispanic communities, that church and faith communities are very important. So making sure that all of our churches are aware and that people are having conversations. So our effort's going to be as much as possible to be out in the community in places that are the normal places where people are.
Kristen Carosa, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. A day of service goes on aimed pandemic on Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Groups mark the holiday by remembering King's words. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Andy Hirschberger.
Why buy a new Ford from Plymouth Ford? Because we stand behind them all with a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty.
It was a celebration of the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday held for the 39th year by the New Hampshire Council of Churches. This year, it was held virtually. And even though the event clearly had a different look and feel, Dr. King's message of equality and healing still rang true and may be more important now than ever.
We don't have to finish the work of transforming society, but we do have to participate in doing the hard work that will move our nation forward.
This event reflected on a year dominated by a deadly pandemic, as well as political and social unrest, as community leaders read the words of Dr. King to put it all into perspective.
Let us realize that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice.
The MLK holiday was also marked in several different ways around the state. The Congregational Church in Amherst collected food and clothing for the homeless in honor of the National Day of Service. Musician Steve Shook has been working on a project that started last year on MLK Day. He worked with other artists to create America the Dream, a new version of America the Beautiful that has elements of Martin Luther King's vision of unity.
I would hope that our country discovers that singing is one of the ways that we start to pull back together again. And it could be this song, it could be a lot of different songs.
Free sheet music for the song America the Dream is available online. Reporting live, I'm Andy Hirschberger, WMUR News 9.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. NEA, New Hampshire calls for teachers to be added to Phase 1B of vaccinations. Let's take a listen to that video from WMUR News 9, Nicole Lally.
Why buy a new Ford from Plymouth Ford? Because we stand behind them all with a 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty.
Next week, another 400,000 Granite Staters will be eligible for the COVID-19 vaccine, but you won't find many teachers rolling up their sleeves just yet.
For some reason, educators are not on the priority in the governor's radar right now.
NEA NH President Megan Tuttle is mad, and she says she speaks for educators across the state.
We need to be in an earlier phase for vaccinations. It's the only way we're going to get the schools to reopen safely in New Hampshire.
Governor Sununu says the priority is placed on those at the highest risk and those who take care of people at the highest risk of death or serious illness from the virus.
Teachers in themselves don't make up 95% of the fatalities. Grocery store workers in themselves don't make up 95% of the fatalities. 65 and over, that's 95% of the fatalities. And that's why, as fast as the federal government will give it to us, we're going to put those needles in arms, and that's why those folks have to come first.
The governor also going a step further with his reasoning.
Teachers don't provide emergency medical services, and aren't required to.
We're considered
frontline responders when it comes to school violence, and we're considered first responders when it comes to shootings in schools.
When it comes to safely opening schools, Tuttle says getting teachers vaccinated is the only clear path.
And we can be as safe as we want with hybrid and things like that, but when we're looking at phase 2, we're looking at educators not getting the vaccinations to start until at least March.
Parents across this state are begging for schools to open up, and they should be open. But again, it's not the teachers per se. It's making sure that those that are most vulnerable, those that are of the highest risk, get to go first.
Tuttle says NEANH has made multiple requests over the last several weeks to meet with Governor Sununu in person. She says the governor's office has yet to respond to the group. Reporting live, I'm Nicole Lally, WMUR News Now.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. Dow futures rise more than 100 points after Wall Street's losing week. U.S. stock futures moved higher early Tuesday as Wall Street looked to bounce back from a rough week ahead of the President-elect Joe Biden's inauguration. Inauguration security. The FBI has reportedly warned law enforcement that followers of the QAnon conspiracy theory have discussed posing as National Guard troops to disrupt Wednesday's ceremony. Let's take a listen to that video from ABC News' Kenneth Moten. He has more on that report.
This morning, the final stages of Washington's lockdown are nearly complete as the Capitol prepares for Joe Biden's swearing in. Overnight, Biden's inaugural team transforming the National Mall, which is closed due to security concerns. 56 pillars of light representing the U.S. states and territories, illuminating a field of flags. But the artwork overshadowed by unprecedented security on the streets. Fencing with razor wire, barricades and checkpoints, restrictions on drones, police boats on the Potomac, and nearly 21,000 National Guard members already in the district.
Now is not the time to come into our jurisdiction to create havoc.
And this morning, the acting defense secretary says there's no intelligence indicating any insider threat to the inauguration, even though every National Guard member is undergoing a background check. And breaking overnight, the Washington Post reports the FBI has privately warned law enforcement that followers of the QAnon conspiracy theory have discussed posing as National Guard members to disrupt the inauguration. On Monday, tensions on the streets running high. A fire at a nearby homeless camp forced the Capitol into lockdown. The false alarm delaying inauguration rehearsals. In the meantime, the U.S. Army Secretary is revealing just how close the Capitol riot on January 6th came to being a disaster.
It came far too close. Something like this should never happen. This country has the talent and the resources to do anything. But the pre-planning and coordination and the intelligence were not really managed well, and we were not in a position to be successful that day as a country.
The FBI is targeting nearly 300 suspects who stormed the Capitol, combing through 200,000 videos and photographs. Many of the tips coming from the suspects' own family members.
We have seen friends, family members, co-workers, and others reporting information to us. The American people have demonstrated that they will not allow mob violence to go unanswered.
Overnight, police announcing the arrest of Riley Williams, the woman accused of stealing a computer from House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's office with the intention of selling it to Russia's intelligence service. The warrant for her arrest revealing it was a former romantic partner of Williams who alerted the FBI. And authorities announcing the arrest of the man seen here in the blue coat, storming the Capitol while displaying a taser. Investigators are questioning the man in connection with the assault on D.C. police officer Mike Fanone, who suffered a minor heart attack after someone tasered him.
You know, while I was getting tased, they were stripping my gear off of, off my vest. You know, individuals in the crowd that tried to get my gun. At one point, people started chanting, kill him with his own gun.
The man denies using the taser on the officer, but tells investigators that if he did touch Officer Fanone, he touched his helmet, and it was merely to help him. The FBI has also arrested a student at the Fashion Institute of Technology after allegedly bragging about his role in the Capitol attack. Agents say his classmates turned him in.
Okay, and there you go on that video and that report. And that does it for this morning edition of the Riley King Newscast, right here on the Riley King Network. Thank you for watching. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you back here later on today for another newscast. I'll have a news report coming up in a little bit. Goodbye, everyone.